Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that someone your age just became a millionaire. How would you feel? Happy for them? Inspired? Or would a tiny voice inside your head whisper, "You're falling behind"? It's strange, isn't it? Someone else's success can instantly make our own life feel smaller. Nothing in your bank account changed. Nothing in your career changed. Nothing about your future changed. And yet, within seconds, everything feels different. Because money has a strange ability. It doesn't just buy things, it changes the way we measure ourselves. And maybe that's the biggest financial mistake most people make before they ever invest a single dollar. Not spending too much, not earning too little, but quietly allowing their self-worth to rise and fall with a number on a screen. Today, we're going to explore why that happens, why so many intelligent people work harder than ever, earn more than ever, and still feel financially trapped. Because the real obstacle to wealth isn't money, it's psychology. Let's start with a simple question. When was the last time you felt like you weren't doing enough? Maybe it happened after scrolling through Instagram. Someone bought their first house. Another person quit their job after selling a startup. A friend posted screenshots of massive crypto gains. And suddenly, your own progress felt invisible. Here's what's fascinating. Your life didn't actually get worse. You simply borrowed someone else's timeline and used it to judge your own. Psychologists have a name for this: social comparison. Our brains don't naturally measure success using absolute numbers. They measure it relative to the people around us. Thousands of years ago, that instinct helped humans survive. Knowing where you stood inside a tribe mattered. But today, our tribe isn't 50 people anymore. It's 5 billion. Every time you unlock your phone, you're comparing your ordinary Tuesday to someone else's highlight reel. And your brain can't always tell the difference. That's why even people making 6 figures often feel broke. Not because they lack money, because they lack enough comparison victories. And that's a game no one can ever win. Once comparison becomes your compass, something dangerous begins to happen. You stop asking, "What do I actually want?" Instead, you start asking, "What do successful people own?" A nicer apartment, a luxury watch, a new Tesla, business class flights, designer clothes. At first, it feels like motivation, but over time, it quietly becomes imitation. Without realizing it, you stop building your own definition of success and start renting someone else's. And that's exactly where money begins to control you instead of serving you. Because once your happiness depends on staying ahead of other people, there is no finish line. There is only another person doing slightly better than you. Here's where things become dangerous. Once you believe you're falling behind, patience starts to feel like failure. Saving money feels too slow. Building skills feels too slow. Investing consistently feels too slow. Everything that actually creates wealth suddenly feels invisible. So the brain begins searching for something else, a shortcut, the next explosive stock, the next crypto bull run, the next AI company, the next investment that promises to change your life overnight. Notice something interesting. Most people don't invest because they understand the opportunity. They invest because they fear regret. Not the regret of losing money, the regret of watching everyone else get rich without them. That's one of the strongest emotional forces in human psychology. It's called FOMO, the fear of missing out. But here's the strange part. FOMO almost never appears as fear. It disguises itself as logic. Everyone's buying it. This time is different. If I don't act now, I'll miss my chance. And suddenly, an emotional decision starts sounding like a rational one. History has repeated this pattern over and over again. The dot-com bubble, the housing bubble, crypto, NFTs, AI speculation. The technology changes, the story changes, but the psychology never does. Imagine someone deposits $10 million into your bank account tomorrow. Would your life change? Of course, but maybe not in the way you think. Most people believe money changes who you are. In reality, money reveals who you already are. If you're patient, more money gives you more opportunities. If you're disciplined, more money gives you more freedom. But if you're impulsive, more money simply allows you to make bigger mistakes. Think about how many lottery winners, professional athletes, or overnight entrepreneurs ended up losing almost everything. It wasn't because they suddenly became irresponsible. The habits were already there. The money simply magnified them. Imagine pouring water into two containers. One is a strong steel tank. The other is made of paper. The water isn't the problem. The container is. Money works exactly the same way. It doesn't ask whether you're ready. It simply exposes whether you are. And that's why becoming wealthy isn't the hardest part. Becoming the kind of person who can stay wealthy is. This is where most financial advice gets it wrong. People love talking about investments, stocks, real estate, businesses, Bitcoin. But before any of those things, there's something much more important: identity. Because every financially resilient person eventually builds 5 invisible assets. The first is emotional control. They don't make decisions when they're excited, and they don't panic when everyone else does, because markets reward patience far more often than intelligence. The second is consistency. Real wealth is surprisingly boring. It's automatic investing, living below your means, reading, learning, repeating the same habits for years. It doesn't look exciting, which is exactly why most people never stick with it. The third is valuable skills. Markets change, industries disappear, technology evolves, but the ability to solve problems, to communicate, to create value will always be in demand. Skills generate income, assets multiply it. The fourth is independence from other people's opinions. The wealthiest person in the room isn't always the one wearing the expensive watch. Sometimes, it's the one who no longer feels the need to prove anything, because confidence doesn't ask for attention. And finally, they stop treating life like a race. Someone else buying a bigger house doesn't change your future. Someone else making more money doesn't reduce your potential. The only timeline that truly matters is your own. Maybe we've been asking the wrong question all along. Instead of asking, how do I become rich? Maybe we should ask, who do I need to become so that wealth stays when it arrives? Because money comes and goes. Markets rise, markets fall. Companies succeed, companies fail. Careers change. But discipline survives. Curiosity survives. Character survives. Those are the things that let people rebuild again and again and again. Maybe that's why some people lose everything and somehow create it all over again, while others receive everything and slowly lose it all. It was never just about money. It was about the person holding it. There's a quote often attributed to investor Charlie Munger. The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. Most people think he's talking about money, but maybe he was also talking about life. Your habits compound, your knowledge compounds, your reputation compounds, your discipline compounds, and eventually, your wealth does too. So before you spend years chasing more money, ask yourself something much more important. Are you becoming someone who can actually keep it? Because the ultimate goal was never to become rich. It was to become the kind of person who could never stay poor for long. Not because of luck, not because of perfect timing, but because no matter what happens, they always have the ability to build again. If you enjoyed this video, don't just think about it. Look honestly at your own life. Are your financial decisions driven by purpose or by comparison? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy documentaries about psychology, money, and the hidden patterns behind human behavior, consider subscribing. Because sometimes, the biggest change in your finances starts with changing the story you tell yourself.